Welcome to Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. If you've been listening for a while, welcome back. If you're new to the show, I'm your host Fiona. My passion for sport really started when I was a competitive swimmer. This led me to study sport development at university whilst also working within the sporting industry. I'm a huge believer in sport being used as a tool for good. Each week, I'll bring you an episode with someone involved in the sporting world. It could be your local high school teacher or your childhood or current sporting hero. The difference is that it's not your typical type of questions. We talk about the highs and lows in their journey through sport, but also what they've learned from it and how it's made them who they are today. There's also a strong focus on how being involved in sport can impact the community. If you haven't already, make sure you hit follow wherever you're listening so you don't miss the drop of each new episode. If you're after some bonus content, then you can check out our Instagram or Facebook page at Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. This week's guest is with a good friend, Robert Keeney. Rob takes us through the world of combat sport, particularly kickboxing, BJJ and MMA. He shares his insights into what sport can teach you and the lessons he has learned about himself along the way. You'll get to hear what made him want to, in his words, put his pretty face on the line by starting a combat sport and how the love of training has transitioned over to his professional life. Can you please tell us about your sport and how you got into it?
All right, can do. My sport is MMA and kickboxing and I suppose BJJ, but how did I get into it? Well, let's take it back to when I was a little kid watching like all these VHS videos of kung fu movies and being like, man, Bruce Lee is a badass. So like I'd run around in like pajamas and shit, just like doing kung fu in my garden and just like people thinking, what a this kid, there's something wrong with him, you know? And then I kind of left it for a little bit because I was busy doing swimming and school and just kind of like vibing, you know? And then I hit, I'm going to say 19 when I started kickboxing. I was like watching the UFC and stuff and I was like, I think I just Googled, is there an MMA near my house? And yep, sure enough, a little unassuming gym posted up with like a very renowned coach that had a lot of accolades, like a champion kickboxer, a UFC striking coach, and I had no idea like how high level some of these guys were. I was just like, hell yeah. I joined that gym at 19 just to get fit, nothing else. I was just using it once a week. So I quit smoking, believe it or not, at the time, just to pay for my MMA. And it just started with kickboxing when I was 19, just to get fit. And then I saw some dudes wrestling, like this guy, he was an all-American wrestler. And that means he was in the top 8 of his division in wrestling in America, which means like it's a pretty big deal. And to see these guys wrestling with each other, I was like, holy, you know,
Molly.
Yeah, whatever. Good heavens, gracious fiddlesticks and all that. These guys are the most athletic specimens I've ever seen. I want to try this. And I just got manhandled, like thrown around like a rag doll. And I was like, this is it. So yeah, I just kind of, you know, stuck around, kept progressing. Eventually at 20, they were like, hey, do you want to take a fight? And I was like, only it's all I've ever wanted. Yeah, you know, like, so they put it up to me and I was like, all right, I've definitely got to quit smoking, not just like socially, I've got to like stop altogether. So far I've been pretty good. There's been the occasional one, but like for the most part I stopped buying them altogether and I started taking the training seriously. Sorry, it's my emphysema acting up.
This is supposed to help people get into sport.
Well, it did. You think about it this way, I quit a very bad habit that could have, like, that cut my granddad's life short when he was 70, and he smoked like a chimney, you know, like just Irish Catholic dude who worked the fields every day plowing potatoes or whatever, right? And I quit that habit so I could train and take it more seriously, and I devoted a large part of my life to that. So, and I did it willingly. I quit the bad habits willingly. So I took it seriously and I went on a traveling show to Darwin for a fight. Surprised myself by winning that fight. And yeah, I really accomplished something that I didn't know or really think about that I set out to do. And I've just kind of been dawdling along. For the record, it's all been kickboxing fights. The only MMA stuff I've done has been novice, and the only BJJ stuff I've done has been like comps. And even then, I haven't really put my all into it. Whereas like kickboxing, I've actually extended myself to go and like take these fights. Like I've gone out of my way to like make weight and stuff like that. Really just, it's been a real sense of accomplishment in what I can do, which has been good. See, I got into it, and I got into it for my own reasons, and now I'm still here 10 years on for my own reasons.
So you were swimming throughout high school, is that right?
Yeah, high school.
Like competitive?
I was competitive when I was younger, but not in high school. I was just doing it to really keep my parents happy, if I'm being honest. Yeah,
no, that's fair. And what was it that went, I want to do kickboxing rather than swimming?
Like I said, I was 19 and I was watching UFC stuff, and I was like, you know what, these guys getting into a steel cage and beating the living daylights out of another, that sounds like fun. I want to punch my friends too. So I pretty much, like I said, I googled the nearest like MMA gym to me, and found what I would say was a pretty unassuming karate dojo / MMA gym that happened to be really good, like top level guys coming out of this gym. And they have a little saying there that they adopted this saying, I should preface, but they have a saying that I like, and it's that iron sharpens iron, not cotton doesn't sharpen iron. If you want to be the best, you have to train with the best.
And you've been doing it for 10 years. So, like, what's kept you in the sport for 10 years? Because that's a long time.
It is a long time. Mostly habit. There's been a lot of habit. Like I said, they turned to me a little while ago and asked if I was interested in taking a pro fight. And I said, that was my actual reaction. I was like, I don't know. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. That wasn't the goal, but I guess things change, goals shift as a goalpost goes further out, as you start to achieve short-term goals. I guess shouldn't hurt to have long-term goals, but they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, well, Mama didn't raise no quitter, so I'll give it a crack. So before I started really like taking that proposal seriously, I obviously got a knee injury. But to get back to your original question, before I go off on too much of a tangent, what kept me in the sport? A lot of habit, a lot of routine, the community of the sport, having people depend on me, because I had people ask me similar weight categories to help them get ready for fights by training hard. And like we said, you got to train with the best to be the best. So we got guys coming in doing hard rounds of just throwing each other in and out, and I wasn't really preparing for the same level of fights as these guys, and my body was getting sore, and I was like, wow, okay, can I commit to this? Probably, but I always had other priorities like uni or work or whatever, and I just kind of did MMA and kickboxing for fun, and it was a hobby. And now that I've been here in the game so long, like I said, they asked me if I was considering taking a pro fight, and I might be repeating myself here, but I was like, I'll give anything a go. Why not?
Shout out to Jackie for not raising a quitter.
Yeah, shout out to Jackie. If you ever listen to this, Mum, I love you. Thanks for buying me a gift to go train 1 month at an MMA gym when I was 19. That was the best.
Oh, well, so it was your mum that helped you financially start it.
Initially, she was like, she went to the gym that I wanted to start at and bought me a Christmas gift, and they didn't do that. There wasn't an offer, but they made one up for me. They just printed it out, and we're like, they've paid a month up front, and I just took over the membership from there.
Well, that's really nice. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So she played a big part in it.
She did. For somebody who has been there all along saying, I don't want you to fight, you'll ruin your pretty face, yada yada yada, like all the rest that the parents do. She did a big part in facilitating it, so kind of mixed messages if you're listening, Mum, but
Or a supportive mother.
Yeah, well, luckily I've got a charming personality, so if my face gets ruined, it's not all bad,
Whatever. So you've got a torn ACL. Has there been like other injuries along your way? Like this one's pretty bad.
This is the worst injury by far. There was one other injury, but believe it or not, I've survived the most head trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy's built with a thick head, so most people, they hit me in my forehead and I'm fine, because that thing's built tough, but the biggest ones have been, most debilitating injuries have been accidental. So the knee was an accident getting ready for a fight. A little while ago, I went to a workshop with a very famous kickboxer, name drop coming, Raymond Daniels, a 10-time world heavyweight champion, glory kickboxing champion, and actually a very nice human being. I want to put that out there, but extremely popular. As soon as word got around that he was coming and giving a workshop at our gym, it was packed. There was so many people, and we were doing rounds of sparring, and somebody didn't watch where they were going, and they stepped on my ankle, and that hurt. That was a debilitating one. I was probably out for 2 weeks with a serious sprained ankle. I might have torn something. I never really went and got it checked out. Yeah, right.
I'm making a face.
I might have torn something, but I was 21 or something like that, so you just bounce back kind of thing. And I had one more injury that wasn't really debilitating, but basically I was doing this little sparring meet thing, a glorified sparring match, and I didn't have the best cup in the world, you know what I mean, a best athletic cup. So I was moving around a little bit, and
the cup that goes in your pants?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a cricket cup.
Yep.
And I've never made that mistake again. That day afterwards, it moved around and I copped one kick and it nearly dropped me. I was
ouch.
Yeah, I was about to puke up my
chocolate milk.
Yeah, I was going to say my ball sack, but I wasn't sure if that was a swear word or not.
I'm going to have to edit that one out, thank you. You said you weren't going to do bad things.
It was a testicle injury. What do you want me to do?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Well, my testes were very tested. So,
right.
I'm pushing the limit of what's allowed.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
But anyway, that day I went out and bought a diamond cup because I was not willing to go through that again. That one kept me bedridden for half a day.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Let's put it this way: a doctor had to look at them. It was very awkward.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So don't use a cricket cup.
Don't use a cricket cup for fighting. I hadn't had a fight, an actual fight by then. That was a little sparring or a interclub. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, because there's 3 sports. There's kickboxing, BJJ, and MMA.
Yep.
What's the real difference between them? And I know you compete more in kickboxing, but how do they all do the same thing?
Okay,
explain it to me because I don't understand.
That's okay, and for all the other amateurs out there listening that know the difference, I'm just saying, or if you want to get into these sports but you're not combat, martial arts or whatever, and you're not sure where to start or you don't really understand the difference, let me break it down for you.
Thank you.
BJJ, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, aka Mexican ground karate. If you know, you know.
I don't know.
That's okay, you're not supposed to know.
Good.
That's basically a grappling martial art or a sport, so there's no striking, there's no punches or kicks. You put on those big karate gis and those big uniforms, and you grab and throw each other. Point is to get a submission, so you can do that via an ankle joint lock, a joint lock, or whether a submission comes from a chokehold. It's up to you. If not, it depends on the rule set. Different competitions have different promotional rules, for example, submission only or how they score, whatever. And you can do that in a gi, which is a big uniform, or you can do that in no gi, where you wear a rashi. I got a BJJ blue belt, and I only really have that out of not wanting to get it, just turning up day after day in a gi just to learn. And that's BJJ. So that's all about the grappling, submission, and ground game. So if you're finding yourself on the ground and you want to learn a sport that's not too high impact on the body but still will push your limits, BJJ is a good place to start. I haven't done too many comps in that, but I've got a few like random like
decent results
titles at home.
What have you got?
I've got a silver medal and a bronze medal, but I don't remember for what comps.
Good one.
Yeah, they're just kind of collecting dust at the moment. BJJ was never the end goal. That was just something I picked up to up the MMA game.
Yeah.
Kickboxing, it's a mixture of boxing and kicking, but it has like almost a karate background where it's basically striking, a dynamic striking. So I do K1, and the K1 rule set is that you can do a little bit of grappling. There's absolutely no ground stuff, so you'll do it in the big 10-ounce boxing gloves. It's mostly striking. You're allowed a little bit of grappling. You're allowed to throw some knees, no elbows, lots of kicks, lots of punching. It's a very dynamic sport, even more dynamic than MMA because it's so fast-paced, stand-up striking. You know, you and the other guy are going to stand up and kick each other until one of you forgets what your childhood was like, you know? That's kickboxing.
That must be, like, I can see why your mum didn't want you to do that. Because I've seen you train.
Yep.
Obviously not at full capacity because of your knee.
Yep.
And, you know, someone else is holding pads. But I can hear the impact.
Yeah, it hurts.
Of that. But when someone else is kicking you back, like, I couldn't imagine. What's that like in the moment?
In the moment, so far, you get the adrenaline rush. So I'm going to say, like, I haven't had anything really bad. Training has been worse than actual matches. Training is meant to be worse. The idea at the end of the day is your sparring partner is going to be tougher than whoever you have to fight. If you've done the training, you've done the hard work. When you get there, the work's done. All you need to do is let your body do what it does, you know? You've done thousands of kicks, you've done thousands of punches, you've put in the work. Now you just need to let it take care. You know, almost autonomous is how I get into a ring. I don't really think about the game plan too much. I have it in my head, but I'm ready to adapt it on the fly. Because at the end of the day, the game plan is to kick their head off or chop them down.
Are you allowed to kick their head?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems very dangerous.
Oh, yeah, you know.
Whatever.
Well,
Who cares?
Yeah, it's whatever. The point of the game is to not get kicked in the head, Fee, so...
Yeah, true. How's your defensive? MMA.
MMA, so I saved that deliberately for last. So that's a blend of all of those sports. It's been refined into a little bit of a well-oiled machine in most recent years. It started actually the same year I was born, in 1992. The first UFC promotion came out where they wanted to do a mixed martial arts competition, and it was wild. You got, like, you know, grossly mismatched weight categories and dudes wearing almost whatever the hell they want, and it was like the Wild West of like fighting. It's like, it wasn't like a boxing match or anything like that. It was like something completely different, and it's been, what they found is that a mixture of all the best, you know, effective martial arts really worked. So BJJ, Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, judo, all of these sports. Probably a few more that I'm missing. And if there got any combat fans out there that want to add to the list or debate me, honestly,
put it in the comments,
or just fight me. That's fine too. That's kind of the point, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I guess they're combat
exactly
athletes.
Exactly. So this one's all for you combat tough guys out there.
Not.
I'm kidding. In all actuality, I haven't had a fight in like 2 years anyway, so I'm probably the most tough guy, quotation, out there. And it's really a blend of all of them. So stylistically, you can take whatever you want to an MMA fight and make your game work. At the end of the day, if you're getting into an MMA fight, you want to make your game plan work. What are you good at? Are you good at grappling? Are you good at kicking? Are you good at punching? How are you going to make that game plan work for you? That's ultimately the sport. So you're taking all of those elements from all those martial arts and making it work to your style.
And kickboxing is your main strength, would you say?
I I would like to think of it as my main strength, but sadly I think it's wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing BJJ?
Because I just don't like the geese.
Oh, okay.
I just like punching, alright? I'm not that great at it, I'll be the first to admit. I'm very good at kicking people, so I can control distance and space. I'm very good at working in leg kicks and tricky spinning kicks and tricky head kicks. You know, I can do fancy stuff, which feels nice. But like, I'd probably say one of my biggest strengths is wrestling in terms of a complete grappling game. I could, like I said, like some of the people that I regularly spar with or grapple with or wrestle with are like all-American wrestlers or high-profile, on the local scene at least, MMA athletes. So if I were to get back into the cage, I would probably be looking to take somebody down, I reckon. Yeah.
Rightio. So how far the competition, how far have you gotten up? Like, you've gone past local.
Yep, so local was like inter-club stuff, so
Yep.
that's really the first place where people step up and kind of test their mettle is like, basically you get, inter-club, if you're not aware, is when you get matched with somebody from another club, usually like a sister gym or whatever, and you organize an event to go, and it's just between the clubs, which is always a nice thing. And then beyond that, there is novice, where it'll be almost like a real fight, kind of like you get put into a ring or a cage or whatever, and it's novice rule sets are different for the protection and safety of the combat athletes. You will still get blood tested to be tested for communicable diseases, and then there comes amateurs, which is where I'm at, and then bordering on to, from amateur you sort of make the jump to professional, but there's a big leap between amateur and professional. You know, doing this for a job and sell, like even at amateur levels you do go to shows, like you sell tickets. There's a lot of great shows out there that support the amateur scene of MMA, kickboxing, boxing in Australia. There's a few up and coming shows. I've been on myself Waco, which is I think it's World Association Kickboxing Organization. Check that out. Another name drop. I've been on that a few times, where you go to a venue like Melbourne Pavilion, or you'll go to I think I went to PLC once, which is like a wrestling center.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like a high school.
I didn't know what to expect, and like I was just expecting like, I don't know, like a couple of like family and friends and stuff. Just like I was expecting maybe an audience of like 40, 50 people.
Yep.
You know, it was like bleachers and stuff just packed out. Yeah, it was like 100+ people in like the first row alone, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, wait.
It's
the
full
face
on.
you're making right now was kind of like the surprise I felt. There was hundreds of people, but there was about 20 odd fights in that last show that I went to. And I was blown away by how many people there were. But yeah, again, like it was almost like it was a professional show. It was like, and if you go to Melbourne Pavilion, that's usually packed out as well, which is another really big venue where they host a lot of high-level shows as well. So there's a lot going on in the combat scene. It's steadily been growing since,
90s.
Yeah, pretty much.
Since you were born.
Putting it very plainly, nice.
Okay, so you get blood tested for transferable diseases.
Yep.
Like HIV, like anything like that. Is that what that is? Like,
Yes.
why, to keep people safe? I wouldn't even ever thought of that.
It's not something that you consider, but yeah, you have to get blood tests for a lot of shows because it's not uncommon to be cut or bleeding.
Yeah.
It's particularly in MMA, if you're throwing like an elbow or a sharp jab, you're looking to cut the person. You probably didn't know this, but if you didn't know this, they put what's that stuff? Vaseline. There we go.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, they put Vaseline on your eyebrows to reduce the friction of a punch to the face to stop you from bleeding. That's what it's for.
Right. And is there like a blood rule? Like once you're bleeding, you have to get off or something?
No, there's no such rule. You can stand there and trade hands with a guy while completely bleeding, like profusely bleeding.
And they can be bleeding too?
Yeah,
okay. That's why you get tested.
That's why that rule is in place. If they want to stop it, that's up to the ref's call. and that would be known as a TKO or a technical knockout.
You're teaching me a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope the audience is interested as well.
There you go. So if you're interested in getting into these sports or being competitive yourselves, here's a little breakdown of how it all works. If you're afraid of needles, probably not the sport for you.
Oh yeah, I pass out at needles, but that's okay. Not the sport for me.
Some people are more afraid of the needle than they are their own opponent.
Yeah, that would be me. So this is a new question. So this is very exciting. You're the first person to be asked this one.
I'm exhilarated.
Great. I'm so happy. If you could go back and relive a moment in your sporting journey, what would it be and why?
Oh. Thrown me a curveball.
I told you about it.
You did.
I have pre-warned you for weeks.
Pre-warned me for weeks. And did I pay much attention? No. But it's okay. I can answer this pretty easily. First of all, like the easiest one to come back to would be this knee injury. So torn my ACL and it was a complete tear. However, I've avoided damage to my meniscus. So if you guys know what physiology, there you go. So 3 months post injury, I'm almost back to where I was in terms of capability, but this is one of the things that I'd easily say I would redo.
You got COVID the same day too.
I absolutely did, and when tearing my ACL, I went and played mini golf that night.
Did you really?
I did. I refused.
Rob.
I know. I refused to accept that I was injured. And then, the next day I couldn't walk. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm injured. I was ready to tape myself up and get into that ring, like, despite the debilitating pain in my knee. And why was I ready to do that? Because I was in complete denial about my injury. And I had some goals that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to get in there, and I wasn't really prepared to let anything stop me. It took me 10 years of martial arts and training to get that mindset and develop it. Not saying it was a good one. It actually encumbered me a little bit here. It was detrimental to my health because I refused to accept that I was injured. That would be, and the worst part about all that is I was 1 week out from my fight, my fight date. Like I was, getting ready. All I had to do was cut weight. Last hard training session was done, and then begins the tapering. And what do? I'm messing around with some guy in like the 8-ounce MMA gloves, and I just catch my foot at a funny angle as we're doing a takedown. And that's it. Just sound, and I was like, yep, I'm in agony.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be the easiest thing to change, or the thing that strikes out the most to me is that most recent injury that has sort of set me up. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely in a good mindset, all things considered. You saw me come to work, limping around. Nothing was really going to stop me or dampen my mood, But if I could change anything, it would be changing the circumstances in which I was injured, in which I would change it to a way that I wasn't injured. That's the easiest one I can think of, only because it was a big disappointment to basically pull out at the last minute.
1 week out.
1 week out, yeah. All the work had been done. It's almost like throwing all that hard work away. Almost. I want to make that distinction. It wasn't thrown away. It wasn't wasted.
And in terms of the recovery, you've done incredibly well.
Thank you.
And seeing even what you were 6 weeks after you did it, which was a while ago now, 6 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
You were pretty much, you could kick.
Yeah, I could kick.
Yeah.
I could change direction, I could kick at a low tempo and pace, mind you. I can up that pace now, but not for too long.
No.
Because then I start to feel that the leg fatigues, and then once it's fatiguing, the muscles aren't stabilizing, so it's going to start grinding away. I've nearly returned full range of motion, but to get to where I was this quickly, it took a lot. There wasn't a day where I wasn't doing a 40-minute bike ride, or lying on a bed and stretching the knee out, or doing rehab of some kind. It's always doing something just to get the leg moving as quickly as possible. That would have been... when I say every day, I mean every day. I'm talking Christmas, Boxing Day, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. I injured myself on the 20th of November, and I've been doing almost like something every day. Not always the full rehab that I've been set, but something. And then in the time that I had COVID, you know, like I was icing it. I was doing everything I could to keep everything moving and recovering as much as I could. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you have been working hard. Like, I've watched you.
Well, thank you.
Do some of your rehab and handle it a lot better than what I would have.
Oh, well, you know, like I said, it started with it's stubbornness, really. Like, I refused to accept I'm injured. That became a very stark reality very quickly when you're like, okay, I can't walk, so that same stubbornness has just been turned around to be like, yo, am I going to be injured for 6 months is what they're telling me? I'm like, no, I'm going to be injured for as little time as possible. So I'm just stubbornly working away at getting my leg, and it's holding out on me. It's doing all right.
It's doing pretty good.
Yeah, but I test the limits fairly regularly.
Yeah. Do you think, because we haven't mentioned this before, you have a Bachelor of Exercise Science?
That's it. I got a Bachelor of Exercise Sports Science from Deakin University.
Do you think that background has helped you?
I do. I really think it's helped get an understanding of what's going on. It's nice to read the doctor's report and go, I actually know what this is and what's going on. I'm working with the physios that are giving me exercises, you know, not in layman's terms, are giving me almost like the same jargon that they would expect another physio to use, which is good because I understand what they want from me, and I can extrapolate from that a little bit and work. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it was just a big word. Extrapolate means to make bigger.
I know what extrapolate means.
Oh yeah, okay. You just looked a little
I didn't look confused.
You raised your eyebrows.
I was just listening.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, extrapolate. Yeah, I could extrapolate from what they were telling me and expand upon that, because when you've got COVID, obviously no physio wants to see you. And then I've been doing telehealth conferences, so when they give me the exercises, it's pretty easy to see the value in the exercises and understand what they want me to do and why. And then I can work upon that a little bit. Even one of the exercises that I gave myself, the physio gave to me, so I was pretty proud of that. I was like, aha, yes.
Did it right.
I noticed this was working well for me, yeah. So I would say the exercise science degree has definitely helped. Like I said, not only understand and liaise with the physios, but also see the value in what rehab can do and what it can do for my physiology and what I can do for recovery and rehab. So I've been working at that as best I can.
Nice. I like that. And was it... When did you become a PT? 23? 24?
2016.
How old were you?
6 years ago now. So I would have been 23.
23, so
yeah.
new.
Yeah, so, spot on.
Because
wow.
I remember we worked together then.
Yep.
And what was it, other than not wanting to be a swim teacher and a lifeguard anymore, that made you want to go into that field?
I was a volunteer firefighter at the time and a swim teacher as a profession, and I needed to figure out, I was just getting out of firefighting at the time, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do with myself, because that was the plan, to volunteer for long enough to be a fireman. And then after 3 years I was just kind of a bit over it, so I was like, alright, I guess I'll drag myself to uni. What can I do while I'm at uni? Probably don't want to be a swim teacher for the next 3 to 4 years.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, sorry. Just a bit sick of smelling like a swimming pool, and I'd already been one for 4 years, so time to move on. I became a PT in 2016, so I could get flexible work hours and a good work hours, good work that I enjoyed doing while still studying and training and keeping up with sport and the high demands that the sport has, because there's no off season in MMA. You just fight when you fight.
Similar to swimming.
Exactly. There's no off season. You just go. So you're always kind of on, and I went to uni part-time, 3 out of 4 subjects kind of thing.
Yeah.
And made a 3-year degree, a 4-year degree. But,
I did that too.
It's worth it for it's
So
worth it for
worth
the
it.
work-life balance. I like work and I hate study, so I did that, and I was a PT the whole time, and finishing that degree, I came out of there, and now I'm a gym manager, which is pretty cool too. It has it's different. I still get to do PT things, which is really cool. Dealing with people is honestly my favorite part of the day, where I get to train people and make a difference in their day. So being a PT was a pretty good step for me back in 2016. It was nice to be able to connect with people and really get the best out of them and achieve something. So that's why I did it in 2016, and now 6 years on, and one exercise science degree later, still pretty happy with my choices.
Yeah, and you're really good at what you do as well. Like,
she's just saying that because I'm her PT. Let's all remember that for a minute, everyone.
Yeah. Well, I think that says everything, doesn't it? Like, I trust you enough for you to be my PT.
I just want to make it clear to everyone, I don't know if she's saying that to be flattering to get out of doing bench press or...
Let's be honest, I've just had my PT session.
Yeah.
So, if anything, how is this going to help me by giving you a compliment now?
That's true, yeah. I mean, there's always next week, but but thank you, I appreciate that.
No, I think you're a great PT.
You hear that? I'm a great PT. Come get some training. Free advertisement.
Cool. So is there like a benefit that sport has provided you that's transferred over to other avenues of your life?
This sport in particular, I'd say resilience. Definitely a lot of resilience, because these are some of the most resilient people in the world. You know, you tell them that they have to restrict their diet for a certain amount of time to reach a certain weight, and they say, okay.
How do you do that? Like mentally?
Mentally, it can be hard. That's a whole nother kettle of fish, and all the rest of that. Like, that's a whole thing you could talk about for a long time, I'd say. Diet and mentality around diet. It doesn't. I learned that it doesn't have to be bad. You know, you can still enjoy every bite of what you eat, and if you're going too hungry, you're doing it wrong, kind of thing. But yeah, it can be very demanding. You know, you can go like, okay, I've got like a week to cut 2.5 kilos. Like, wow, okay, I'm gonna jump in a salt bath, just sit there for like half an hour or something like that. You know, like. You cut some water weight here, you diet for a week or two before you go, you know, you still got to manage energy and things like that. And I don't want to talk about diet too much, but yeah, you know, back to the resilience lesson, you tell these people that you're going to get into a steel cage, okay, you're going to fight someone who's an opponent that's been matched up against you, and it's going to be a fairly even fight. Still say okay, you have to cut your diet down and you have to weigh a certain amount, and they still say okay. There's a lot of physical and mental stress that come with both sides of that. So these are typically very resilient people and very tough mentally and physically. Anyone who has ever been in any kind of combat fight sport that's been sanctioned bout, you know what I'm talking about, or if you've ever thought about it, it does take a lot. I'll give you that as a heads up right now. It's really given me a lot of sense of accomplishment and achievement, and definitely ticking off a lot of goals. Fitness wise, it's been fantastic. You get to really focus your skills in, you hone your skill set, train your body to its what you're capable of, your utmost.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to see that. It's nice to learn a technique and then actually execute it. You know, that's another thing as well. Like, learning this chokehold is one thing when somebody's letting you do it to them. Doing it on somebody, you know, that doesn't want to be strangled, you know, do almost like involuntary yoga, just stretching them out in the...
That took me a minute to get that.
That's another thing entirely, you know. Or it's nice to punch a pad and it hits hard and it's got that impact. It's nice to punch a head.
Is it?
Kinda, yeah. Well, it's better than being punched in the head, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so, but I don't know.
It's definitely given me a lot of sense of fulfillment, a lot of sense of achievement, and a sense of resilience if I was to cap it off. There you go, there's my...
I like that. Yeah, no, nice. Sense of fulfillment, that's good, because it is like you're working hard towards a goal and you're either achieving it or you're getting close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you don't achieve your goal the first time, you take a lesson from it anyway. I mean, this is not like just martial arts. You don't really lose All right, you learn.
Yes, you have just segued to my next question. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I didn't even read them.
I know, and now you're doing it. It's the flow of the questions. So is there a lesson that you've learnt along the way?
That's a very nice flow. Wow, look at this hostess with the mostess. She's got the questions. Oh, she's got the interviewing process nailed to a T.
Oh,
Stop it. I would say you learn a lot of lessons. I'll be very precise at the moment. When it comes to the fight game, you learn what you do well in a fight. You learn what you didn't do well. You can always watch back footage. Usually, I don't have a lot of footage of my stuff, but when I do, it's almost like a highlight reel. So I guess that's not really the best, but you internalize your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people take their own failings and their own mistakes to heart the most, and they don't generally forget it. At least for me, when I mess up, I take that mistake and I try to learn from it, because it's only really a failure if you don't learn from the mistake. So long as you're taking on board what you didn't do well and refining the process at the workshop, it's not really a loss. You know, you win or you learn. That's simple as that. If you get into a fight and you get knocked out in 10 seconds, how do you turn that around from like, okay, how did this happen? What went wrong? Did I come in with my guard down? Was I too relaxed to start? You know, that's what happened. Or did I lose a close fight, but I gave it my all? Where did it go wrong? Do you need to work on your ground game? Do you need to work on your wrestling? Do you need to work on your boxing? What is it? What's the missing puzzle piece of your game? If you're doing MMA, for example, if you're doing kickboxing, it's like, okay, I lost to a southpaw or whatever. So what's the game plan from there? How are you going to refine that? Are you going to go spar with southpaws? Probably. What was the actual question you were going to ask?
What's the lesson that you've learnt?
Yeah, so that's the lessons that you can learn from a fight. What you can learn that pertains to life is, I suppose, what you can learn is about yourself. Like, for example, how are you under pressure? How are you in tough situations? Do you want to quit immediately, or do you kind of dig your heels in and grind it out? You know what I mean? Like.
And you are stubborn, so what do you do?
I'm extremely stubborn, you know. I'm like a workhorse that won't drink water when you lead it to water, you know. Like when people tell me, you know, it's going to be a certain way, I almost want to spike them. That's a deep source of motivation for me, is just to be like, oh, watch me.
Watch me, yeah. I think that's why we work so well together at work.
I mean,
you can't do this, watch me.
Yeah, I feel immature saying it. It's almost like a cheeky monkey kind of thing, isn't it? Like, hey, Rob, you can't do a backflip in this bar. Watch me, you know? Or, oh, Rob, you can't, you know, you shouldn't be walking. It's like, watch me. Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I think you can learn a lot about yourself in hard situations, and you can learn a lot about yourself in what you can do and what you can achieve, which has always been something amazing to me, is like how much I can achieve. Because when you watch I don't know if it's anyone else can relate to this, but watching people who know how to fight, watching people who can throw hands the first time can be kind of overwhelming, because they're just so good. It's almost as if you've been completely untrained. You don't know what the difference is between you and them, because you can't see it. You don't know the finer details that make them so good. It's almost embarrassing when you get schooled, you know. You hop into a BJJ gym and get choked out by a 50-kilo girl. You're like, oh, okay, I've learned something. But these things can happen, you know. Like, yeah, like I said, you can learn a little bit about who you are and how you deal with tough stuff.
And I think that transfers over to a lot of sports, because like in swimming, for example, you push yourself to a certain point and you're like, okay, so when I'm at this breaking point, this is how I react to bad news, or this is how I react to having to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Or restarting.
Because I'm sure we're all accustomed to failure. And I think a lot of us can pinpoint where we wanted to give up. What was the moment we wanted to give up? Was it if you're swimming, did you want to give up halfway through 100 because you were falling behind and feeling kind of tired, or
No.
I'm just giving, like, this off the top of my head. What was the point that you wanted to give up on a goal?
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can pinpoint that, and it's definitely, I think, even in kickboxing, if I bring it back to my sport, you can see the point where people want to give up, where they know that they've lost. Like,
You can see it in their eyes.
not just their eyes, but their behavior, their attitude. Like, if you watch like a fight where a guy's getting his absolute leg turned into a mashed potato, at some point he's going to want to give up, and you know it, and like they know it and they can see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like being able to know where your limits are, and how you handle things. Like, I guess, and it even transfers over to how you handle things in general life, and like you're cool as a cucumber in conflict, and maybe that's because of your training background, whereas I'm more likely to like tee off.
Yeah, I mean, I can avoid confrontation. Like, that's usually the most that I'll do, is I'll avoid confrontation because it's just easier. But when I have to, and when I want to, or when I need to, I can just dig my heels in, look that person in the eye, and say what needs to be said. Like, but for the most part, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, just let it go. Yeah, there are worse things in life. Actually, I'll come back to that question that you asked before. Something that I learned personally is that usually, and why I can be pretty chill in some situations or social situations, is like, oh, well, at least I'm not trying to kick my head off. That's always something I can fall back on. It's like, I'm going into this show with flashing lights and loud music, and and a guy that's trained for the last like 12 weeks solely to punch my head. I can go, oh, well, at least I'm not in that situation. And then all of a sudden, a board meeting or whatever, or a staff training meeting hosted by me that I've been prepped for like 10 minutes beforehand, suddenly that's not so bad. And I'm just like, hey guys,
Your swim classes that you have to teach because I had...
Yeah, swim classes that get dropped on you in the last minute and like easy peasy.
Watch me, yeah. That's a good one. I don't think anyone's really had that before, so thank you for bringing that to the table.
You're welcome.
Now, a big part, well, you've probably known me for a while, so you've known me for a while.
I have known you for a while.
But a big part of like who I am and what this podcast is like bringing something and giving it back to the community. So have you been involved in something where sport or exercise has been used as a tool to develop the community?
Absolutely, I have. So, you know Jade, you've met her, my most regular training partner who holds pads for me. What a boss. By the way, for people listening, she is a mum of two, single mum of two, 50 plus, I'm 20 something. She's been holding for me for the last 7 years now. So I want to make it clear that martial arts is for everyone. Mm-hmm. She can hold for me, and, there's quite a disparity between, our physiology. You can attest to that, yes, Fee? Mm-hmm. Yeah. A little while back when her partner passed, and the reason why she is a single mum, our community came together, the martial arts community, the gym that we all trained at. We hosted a workshop where, you pay money and you basically come in and you train and you drill. It was a fairly big event. You paid to get in. All of the money hosted from that went to Jade and her family.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it happened, I think, 2015. But if Jade, if you're listening, you can correct me on that. But yes, we hosted something like that, and all of the donations went solely to her family to support her in that difficult time. That's just one of like countless examples of like a community coming together to achieve something through sport. Mm-hmm. I'm sure lots of sporting clubs and lots of sporting bodies do that. That's the one that I can think of the top of my head. The one cool thing about martial arts is there's plenty of people from different walks of life. Mm-hmm. Like I'm training with people that English is their second language, different religions, ethnicities, all sorts of things coming together, all to enjoy violence together.
In a controlled environment.
In a controlled environment, absolutely, because we wouldn't be friends. We're teammates. We build each other up. We wouldn't be friends if we hurt each other all the time. You know, sometimes we spar and it doesn't hurt, but we come together as a community from different working class backgrounds, different, you know, upbringings and values even, all to lift one another up. There's, you know, at the end of the day, if you're getting into a cage fight or whatever you're doing, whatever sport, it is a soul sport. It is a solely you versus them sport, and you're the only one that can do anything. Once that door closes and the gates are locked, it's a fight. It's on. It's you and the other guy. Even though that is the case, you do have, and you should have, a team supporting you from the outside, being your outside perspective. And right up until that moment where they lock the door, you are with your teammates. You have come together and supported one another, and you need to, because it is a big step up. You have coaches, training partners, friends, family, all these little columns of support that post you up to be the best athlete you can be. And I'm sure this applies to all sports, not just mine, but I'm just using mine as an example. That in itself is an example of a community coming together to support one another.
And I didn't know that about Jade, and I think it's really beautiful that, you know, it was just the local club coming together to support someone in need that, you know, was in need because nothing to do with the sport.
Yeah,
pretty much. So
exactly right.
Yeah, like that's a great example of how sporting clubs and communities can band together during tough times, and I'm sure there's countless of examples within the community that we don't even know about.
Oh yeah, exactly right. That's what I mean. Like, there's so many examples of sporting communities coming together to achieve something like that, you know?
And I know you get paid as a PT, but that does make a difference to the community, even like the work community.
Yeah, well, you know, that exactly right. Like, one of the biggest reasons that I'm still a PT is, like I said, making a difference in somebody's day. You could be the highlight of somebody's day, or if you're giving them burpees, you could be the low light of somebody's day. But
chest press. Yeah,
exactly right. But if you do it as like a class or you do it as a group, you know, you guys went through that suffering together, whether it's a group exercise class or a sparring session, you guys went through that together. You can talk about how much that sucked together. And then you can enjoy a latte afterwards, like, oh my god, you go eat a muffin and undo most of the work you did in the class.
Don't say that. You can eat muffins if you want to.
You can eat muffins if you want to. But my point is that you guys went through that together.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not here to shame anyone. Life is all about balance and all the rest. You know, if you want to I think, personally, I always advocate for a balanced approach to life. You want to enjoy the glass of wine and a muffin in the morning, whatever.
At 10 o'clock, go for it.
10 p.m. at night because you can't sleep, go for it. Sometimes happiness is health.
Exactly. Okay, last question. Are you ready for it?
Oh, is it a big one?
Yeah, it's loaded. Are you ready?
Hit me.
All right, where do you see the future of sport?
Of my sport?
Take it wherever you want, Rob.
Oh, that's a very open-ended question.
I know.
Where do I see the future of sport? You know what? I'm just going to keep it, because I've already talked about the local MMA scene. I see the future of combat sports growing, especially here in Australia. Sports in general will always have its place in people's lives and their livelihood. It's entertainment, it's spectator sports, it's everything in between. It's good for people. Like, you know, mentally, it's good for people's well-being and community. It's a huge pillar of a community. But I'm going to refine that question down a little bit. I think the local combat sports scene is definitely on the rise. In the time that I have been doing the sport, which is a little over a decade, seen the rise of things like the IMAF, which is the International Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Federation, or the Waco. I was there for like the first ever Waco fights, which was like hosted at the Arnie's, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I know, right? It was wild. Just a bunch of bodybuilders watching these skinny dudes just go at it, you know. I've seen that grow. I've seen coaching communities grow, and new regulating bodies and sporting bodies for mixed martial arts, kickboxing, BJJ, and even new BJJ competitions are on the rise, and gyms are out there, so there's plenty of young athletes ready to give it their all. And as the levels and body and sport of MMA, kickboxing, whatever, as they grow, the level of competition will grow too. So it's really nice to watch all of these things come out and be a part of that a little bit. I myself have been working on a little something here. I can't talk about it too much. I haven't mentioned it to you, but
What? Okay, off air, we're going to discuss this.
I will, yes. I've been working
straight after this.
Okay, all I can say is it's a internationally recognized coaching body for kickboxing. I've been a part of that. Over lockdown, I've been working with coaches from Austria, the USA, to develop this body a little bit. I was almost like a test run kind of thing, and I did have to give my degree to the guy that I was working with just to be like, hey, yes, I do know what I'm talking about, and this guy has a master's in biomechanics, yada yada yada. I haven't talked to you about it because I haven't been it's been a little while, and
it's on the back burner.
Yeah, and it's also been sort of like not at privileged to disclose. So the future of sports definitely on the rise, and where you want to put that magnifying glass is up to you, the listener, or us, the interviewees.
Oh, yes.
How you want to interpret where that's going. Sports is definitely on the rise. I'm sure if you're listening in, you're probably a fan of some sport or another.
Or a friend of us.
Or a friend. Shout out to the friends and family.
Our colleagues that we're
all
forcing.
The colleagues, yeah. I'm sure that you've been a part of some sport or another in one way, and whether you took that as a part of your life, moving forward or growing up, entirely how you interpret sports. But yes, I think it's on the rise.
I'm excited about whatever you're working on, and you're going to tell me as soon as we finish recording in a minute.
Okay.
But also, to the point that you said that it's how you interpret it, and that's so true, because it's however or whatever lesson that you need to learn, or whatever lesson you want to learn or get out of the sport is the lesson that you're going to learn, and transfer it over to other avenues.
Exactly.
And it's cool that you said that for someone who doesn't believe in the power of the universe.
Yeah. I believe in the power of self.
Yes, but like wherever you get that power from, you can get things from different places, and sport is a tool. I say it's a tool in the toolbox to teach you life lessons like resilience, or being able to look at yourself and go, okay, well, this is what I learned, or this is how I'm going to get better. So, yeah, thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
You spent your lunch hour with me.
I did.
Okay.
It's been one hell of an hour.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. Catch ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. This is a completely independent podcast that has been created to share the journey and lessons of top-level sporting professionals, but also your everyday lover of sport. If you liked this podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a review and share it with someone who you think would also enjoy it. Until next time.